Hello and welcome to Aspen Affairs, the show where we dive into issues shaping our community and provide a platform for dialogue with local leaders. I'm Debbie Braun, president of the Aspen Chamber, and today we're focusing on the upcoming City Council elections. Dun, dun, dun! Joining me are two incredible individuals who have stepped up to serve our community. Torre, Aspen's current mayor and now running for City Council seat, and Benedetti, a first-time candidate with deep ties to our town. Before we begin, I want to remind our viewers that the Aspen City Council election is scheduled for March 4th. Early voting begins on February 18th, and ballots are going to be mailed to registered voters starting February 10th. Your participation in this election is crucial for the future of our community. Our format today will be a dynamic discussion where we're going to alternate questions between our two guests, giving each of them the opportunity to share their vision for Aspen. Let's get started. Hello, Torre and Christine.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for being here, and I'm glad you were able to make it. I'm going to start off with a softball. How's that? We'll just start off really simple. Torre, after serving as mayor for 3 terms, what motivates you to continue your public service with as a member of Aspen City Council?
The same thing that's driven me every time I run for office, which is a deep love for Aspen and a desire to work for my community. I love the opportunity. I'm completely honored by the service that I've done, and I'm proud of the work that I've done as well. But there's more to do. There's a lot of issues that are ongoing, whether it's housing, entrance to Aspen, the Armory project that's going on, child care, mental health in our community, environmental stewardship. I've always considered myself an issue-based candidate, and I want to keep working on the issues for the best for my community.
Great, thank you. Christine, this is your first time running for City Council. What inspired you to run for the seat?
Well,
or did you get forced?
No. I, like Torre, have a deep love for Aspen and want to be a steward for future generations. I moved here 20 years ago to be a reporter for the Aspen Daily News and immediately set foot in City Council chambers and met Torre soon after there and have been actively engaged in local government in some way or another since then. I co-founded the Next Generation Advisory Board. I served on the Wheeler Board for 10 years. I'm currently the vice chair for planning and zoning. I sit on I'm the board president for the Early Learning Center. So I think I bring a body of work to the table that can inform the experience at the council table. And then my lived experience here as a parent, as a professional, as a person who loves the outdoors, someone who lives in deed-restricted housing, also brings a cross-section of decision-making to Aspen. And I'm grateful for the opportunities that Aspen's given me and want to raise my hand and say I'll be an advocate for it in the future.
Was there any one thing that said, this is why I'm going to run this time around?
No.
It
just
was
like
time.
the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, timing really is everything.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of jump into the entrance. And I'm going to start with you, Christine. The entrance to Aspen remains a contentious topic. What is your perspective, perspective on how the city should address this issue while balancing accessibility and environmental concerns?
This is the question for this election. I think we will decide a mayor based on voters' choices about the entrance to Aspen. We have 2 referendums on the ballot that address the question as well. And I don't think there's a best solution, which is evident by the inaction and indecision that's happened for 20 plus years at this point. We had a survey the city of Aspen put out in the fall, and most striking to me was that 86% of respondents were looking to the entrance to Aspen to solve traffic and congestion. And none of the configurations on the table right now meaningfully address that problem. And so I think if voters are looking to current proposals for the entrance to Aspen to solve their biggest concern, then they're being slightly misled in what they're voting on right now. That all said, I think we need a holistic and integrated approach to the entrance to Aspen, that we have an airport redevelopment coming down the line. We have the lumberyard construction coming down the line. The Highway 82 corridor is much larger and much more congested than the way we get into Aspen over the bridge. We'll know more in March, I think, as potential elected officials and the public in general. As an elected official, I intend to carry out the community's will. I hope that there's a strong opinion or a voiced opinion, elected opinion in one way or another. I'm not sure that there will be. And I think that if elected, I would carry that out. I don't bring my own agenda to the table right now and want to listen to what voters have to say.
Thank you. Torre, what's your stance on the best approach to improve the entrance to Aspen, and how do you plan to address traffic and community concerns?
The approach that we're taking right now is to get into the process for the reevaluation of what the alternatives are and what is the best for our community. And I support that. I'm glad that we're in that process, the EIS process, and scoping this. For me, there have been changed conditions over the last 30 years since the record of decision was put in place. Number one, Valley Rail. It is not the forefront of transportation conversation anymore. And the entire preferred alternative in the record of decision that comes across the Marolt was predicated on that. The original record of decision was actually the light rail corridor, as it's called, so train tracks, and 2 lanes of traffic across the Marolt. That was it, 2 lanes, 1 in and 1 out. It is morphed and it's grown into this 2 lanes in and 2 lanes out, a cut and cover tunnel, a 5-lane and wider bridge and all that. And so with changing conditions, the fact that the train is really not primary in that conversation, the desire of the community to not have a tunnel as an entrance to Aspen, and maintain the Marolt open space as much as possible for environmental reasons. But then also potentially not having a traffic light at 7th and Main. Change condition also for Cemetery Lane residents. Cemetery Lane residents don't want to have to go out around the roundabout in order to get in town, and they don't want to have to come in town to go through a light at 7th and Main to get out of town. So with all that kind of new information, I just advocate for a reevaluation. I think that the criteria will show what is probably the best path forward. Another change criteria here is emergency egress and emergency exit. That is something that 30 years ago was just not in the forefront of people's thinking. These days, it is. From my conversations with the community, what I see is potentially that the modified split shot, as it's called, 2 lanes out on the existing alignment and 2 lanes in across a bridge that goes around the Marolt, not through it, seem to be that middle ground. And it kind of bared itself out as well in the survey that we just did. Overwhelmingly, second choice for folks was that split shot concept, right? So you have preferred alternative advocates on one side, you have 3-lane bridge advocates on another side, but really maybe the heart and the majority of our community is in a compromised position, which would be that modified split. So like Christine though, hey, I am here not on a personal agenda. I want to do what best fits the criteria and what best reflects the will of the community.
So how do you plan to address the traffic and the community concerns?
So the traffic, Christine is right about this. No matter what solution we do from the roundabout to Main Street, which is what we're talking about when we talk about the entrance to Aspen, that is not going to solve that issue. That issue is going to be solved by a longer Highway 82 corridor improvements, as well as continuing to offer people alternative methods of transportation. We need to make mobility work better for what's going on today. A great example of this, the ski shuttles, right? The RAFTA provided ski shuttles that run people from mountain to mountain in the wintertime. What a success. If that program wasn't in place, just think of all the people that would have to get themselves from mountain to mountain in the mornings and in the afternoons to get home. So programs like that, getting people onto mass transit and mobility solutions, whatever they are, multimodal solutions, are really the future for that. As a side note, I will say that we do have a meeting coming up with the BOCC where we are going to discuss this, a holistic approach of looking at the entire corridor. If we want to make real improvements at the entrance to Aspen itself, I think we need to include the roundabout in that conversation, because that is just a natural bottleneck that unless we deal with that, it's going to continue to be a place of congestion.
Yeah. Christine, how do you think about like the addressing traffic and community concerns from the city council perspective?
I think a lot of people have spent a lot of time talking about this issue. We have the mobility study from 2017 where many smart people got together and discussed this, and a lot of solutions for current day problems, not necessarily, like Corey said, it's changed over years. And so I think looking at some of the ideas that people have already come up with and understanding that this is a multimodal answer. We can't say there's a bullet through adding more buses, or if we put in this gondola from the airport to Aspen, everything will be solved. There's a lot of ideas going on out there, and none of them do it as a standalone solution. And so coming up with a comprehensive plan that incorporates all of that. Autonomous vehicles are coming down the pipeline in years. We have to be aware of what the future has too, and be planning for the future in the problems, challenges, and opportunities that come our way, and be looking forward, not always backward.
Yeah. Evolve or die. That's what I always say.
On a daily basis.
I do. I say it to anybody who will listen to me. I am curious, do either of you have to be in that traffic in the morning when you're coming in to your jobs?
I don't have to be in the traffic coming in, but I have a child who goes to the Aspen Elementary School, so I sit in it sometimes on the way out to pick him up from Nordic. 2 weeks ago, it took me an hour and 20 minutes to drive 2 miles, there's not really a solution in the winter to get out there. So I am very empathetic with the issue with people sitting in the traffic, and I have lived in Snowmass and Woody Creek at points in my life and had to deal with that traffic as well. So I very much understand the frustration. It's soul sucking.
It's interesting. I think I'm in the traffic every day that I come up, and I have learned to have it not suck my soul anymore, but give it some meditation time, some like time to get my thoughts together. Like you have to kind of change your perspective, or else you're going to be like raging, and we're all like going a mile an hour. So it's really not suiting anyone. Torre, you live in town, so
I do. I live in town, so I'm not in the morning commute in. I will tell you though, oftentimes I'm on the commute in the reverse direction. So early morning, sometimes I have meetings down in Carbondale or somewhere in the valley, and so I really enjoy the opportunity to kind of see the pattern that's coming into town. Yeah. It really fluctuates from day to day. It's amazing. I mean, some days can be gorgeous, clear, not icy roads, and it's backed up past the airport. Other days, you have weather as a factor. And other days, it's clear and the commute time is not that bad. However, I do get stuck in Main Street traffic on the way out. And Debbie, I approach it the same way that you do. I recognize that it's going to be about a 10-minute delay, maybe 12-minute delay, and I just breathe. And I relax, and I turn up the radio a little bit extra. I use it as a time just to calm down. It's kind of similar to when I go to the post office here in Aspen. Just know that you may be there for an hour, and that's just the way it is. But that doesn't mean that I don't take it seriously and I'm not looking for solutions. But again, as Christine and I were just saying, the solution to fixing the morning commute traffic into Aspen is not going to be solved just by roadway enhancements.
Yeah, I would agree, since I sit in that traffic. I mean, I might pick up a minute or two, but I don't think even the studies have said that this is like a silver bullet to anything. So I think we all have to be a little realistic here. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about a topic near and dear to my heart, the Armory Hall. Torre, the historic Armory Hall project is significant for the community. Yeah. What is the vision for its future, and how do you propose managing its renovations within the budget constraints?
Well, the budget constraints seem to be growing by the day. So, I think this council has a get it done and can do attitude when it comes to this. Whatever the financing and whatever it costs us, we want to make sure that what is returned to the community is worth that investment. For me, I get my guidance from the community. We've done so much outreach on it that we've heard the input. I've shared with you that I'm not completely 100% happy with some of the decision making that's been going on there. And so that's part of the reason that I'm sitting in this seat and running for a council seat, is to stay involved in this conversation. I think there are some modifications and changes to really return to the community a true community asset. And again, this project was more or less kicked off by a community advisory vote that asked that the Armory building was moved from city office use to community use. And so I'm doing my best to fulfill that vision for the community in the best way possible.
And is the best way possible just restaurants and bars in there? I mean, that seems to me to be fairly short-sighted from maybe the business perspective. It is very hard to fill up restaurants and bars, and I thought the community wanted community space.
Yeah.
So how did we go from it being a community building to almost like a food court? No disrespect.
Yeah, well, again, so I think the terminology, what we do want, we want a food court. We don't want a food hall, right? So it originally in all the conversations with the community and the original planning, we were talking about food service, a food court, if you will, perhaps small vendor kiosks with a master kitchen, but 3, 4, or 5 different types of offerings. That has grown. It's really taken over the building. Why has that happened? Well, I mean, some of it has been direction from council members, not this one. I share all the time. I think that a lot of the programming is going very well, except for the 3rd floor, the top floor, currently being slated to be 2 restaurants and 2 bars. I think that should be an open hall. Yes, you can have food and beverage service up there, but I think that it should be availed to events for both nonprofit organizations and community organizations, as well as local residents. I mean, it's very difficult for local residents to have an affordable wedding in Aspen. And that's just one example. Weddings, memorials, birthdays, you name it. It's really difficult to do that in Aspen, and I think that space could lend itself wonderfully to that.
I do have one follow-up, which is you guys are fast-tracking to get the dirt into the ground, it looks like. So is there any opportunity for still dialogue on, is it all going to be restaurant and bars, or are there places for community space in there?
That dialogue can still go on.
Okay.
The work that we have slated, right? This is a big project. This is a multi-year, multi-million dollars project. And so that interior allocation, there is still time for positive impact to make sure that the final programming comes out the way that we all see fit. It's not too late for that.
Okay. Christine, as someone who's kind of new to government, even though after I just heard your bio, it sounds like you are knee-deep in it, how do you prioritize funding and the design for the Armory Hall to ensure that it's meeting that community need?
Well, without breaking down the numbers and having a budget in front of me, I've done a lot of research on a lot of topics, but Armory budget is one that I've done a deep dive into.
Okay.
I think that the restaurant and bar concept that you referenced as being separate from a community space, I see those as the same thing, and they are not the same thing, but having crossover. One of the issues that I have and concerns for our community is the loss of third spaces. And I don't know if you're familiar with the term, but you have your first space, which is your home, your second space, which is your office, and then your third space, which is where you have impromptu, spontaneous social interactions with the people around you, and it helps to build community. And historically, those have been restaurants and bars in Aspen. It was the Red Onion, it was L'Osteria. We had some of these places that we would run into our neighbors and have conversations and talk about how to fix Aspen. And so I think that community space is our restaurants and bars, and I think that if you give someone an empty room without something to activate around, that it doesn't necessarily draw people the same way. So I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a community space for things like events and meetings and weddings or what have you, but I do think that there's a cross-section in restaurant and bars help to draw people in to have that.
Yeah.
And just for clarity, that's what I was saying, is that there should be food and beverage service on that 3rd floor. It could be a restaurant and a bar, but it should be availed and available to the community to use as community space as well. So I agree. I think that they're intertwined.
I always wonder, like, our youth, they don't have a lot of places to really go. So the bar concept is a little much for what I'm thinking, because it would be great for the kids to be able to go get some affordable food together and be, do you think that that space can help the youth who are kind of running around with not a lot of good places to go? And a lot of kids are going mid-valley, down valley. So do you have any comments on that, Christine?
I mean, I think definitely the concept for a food hall, a food court has been proven time and time again. They're very popular in Europe, and now they are very popular in the United States. You know, we have the Dairy Block in Denver, we have the Ferry Building. So there's a lot of models to draw inspiration from on this. And I don't think that a bar has to be central for it. And I think that youth are drawn to places where other people are. And so if people are there for food and there's families and that's a place to be, then youth also want to be there. You know, I can think of my stepdaughter who just grew up in Aspen, and where she would go to socialize, and now she's at college now, but it was some of those restaurants where they could afford to have sit down and share like a dessert and hang out with their friends and just be part of downtown, and want to be in the community and not isolated from it.
Do we think that these are going to be affordable options inside the building? Is that the hope, or is it going to be market inside the building?
Well, the current conversation has been about market. The current conversation, and again, this is where I differ from some members of the current council, and as well as some of the models that Christine was just talking about. I do think that the top floor could be a wonderful venue for our youth and our teens, and that's what I'm advocating for, is creating a flex space up there that can, for example, because it has a kitchen and a bar area, you could have guest chefs, a pop-up kind of cuisine. But you could also then have a winter market in the third floor. You could also use it for several days a week for teen gatherings and kids gatherings, or just giving it over to them with games, with things to do, whatever they would want to see programmed up there. I think a lot of teens would love to have the opportunity to have their peers, like playing guitar, hanging out, and that. And I think it could be a really great flex space to address a lot of needs, and the kids are definitely one of the forefront thoughts for that.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful building. I'm really excited the visitor center is going to be in there. I think it's really important, to your point, Christine, that you need volume to make these successful. And with the chamber, the visitor center at least, you know, there's 20,000 people walking in to get things, which would take them into the court. I do worry during the off seasons, are we going to be able to keep the lights on? So I'm glad to know that there is still some discussion available to it, and I'm excited. It's kind of fun to get something in such a beautiful historic building. At the Chamber, we call it the Magic Building, because it's going to suit everyone's needs, and it is going to hopefully be a place that we all gather. So I know that the business community wants to be involved as that goes forward. So, okay, I'm going to talk about affordable housing, which we just did the business advocacy survey for the Chamber. No surprise, the #1 issue, affordable housing for their workforce. So, Christine, it's a pressing concern in Aspen. What specific policies or initiatives would you advocate for increasing housing options?
We have, when I was on Next Gen, affordable housing was one of our priority topics. I think that affordable housing has evolved as a national discussion, as a state discussion, as a local. There's a lot more momentum behind it now on all levels. And to me, it's not an issue that you can run on anymore. It should be a filter through which all decisions are basically made and incorporate in somehow. So to say that there's, again, one silver bullet policy fix, the city of Aspen has a very thorough strategic plan around affordable housing. And it addresses everything from development to development neutral solutions. I think some of the things on my priority list, and we talked about these as Next Gen and brought them forward, and now they're part of the strategic plan. But maximizing the number of bedrooms in the town and putting deed restrictions on, or taking care of some of the deed restrictions that are set to expire. I live in Smuggler. or Centennial, parts of Centennial and Hunter Creek. Those deed restrictions are threatened in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And that's an enormous part of our housing inventory that if we don't look at, we'll be losing those too. So I think we can't always, there's no solution to build more. We don't have the land anymore. There are specific targeted areas that we could look at. And I think creatively we need to just keep addressing this and making sure that that we're coming at it from all sides. One other part of that is buying additional deed restrictions or helping people put deed restrictions on free marketplaces.
Yeah.
That's happening throughout the valley, and I think we can do more of that in Aspen too.
Yeah, the Good Deeds program, right? We just heard about that yesterday at our board meeting. Torre, Aspen affordable housing challenges have persisted for years. What are the key lessons from your tenure as mayor that you'd bring to address this issue as a city council member?
I mean, it's not just as mayor. I've been dealing with affordable housing for over 24 or 5 years since I've been involved. One of the first votes that was in front of me as a new council member in 2003 was Burlingame, and a lot of people considered me the swing vote. It was 2-2, and I voted to go ahead with Burlingame, and I'm really proud of that. And I've continued, supporting affordable housing, looking for development opportunities, but also looking for those non-development opportunities. And to be very specific about that, I'm really proud of the lumberyard. I'm glad that we land banked that years ago. I'm glad that we're moving forward with putting some housing in there. But I don't see us building our way out of this. My take on this is not endless building of housing. I think that the 200 plus units that are potential out at the lumberyard are going to be a great step forward for us. And I'm going to look towards those other avenues, buying down deeds, making sure deed restrictions are in place. The biggest one, a focus for me right now, is making sure that the capital programs are in place for our HOAs and our affordable housing. We need to maintain and upkeep the housing stock that we have now and keep it going into the future, as well as look for other opportunities to add to that.
Well, we only have like 3 minutes left because you guys are so fun to talk to. We kind of get sidetracked a little bit. But I want to talk about one thing. No, we can't. I want to talk about economic diversification and just a quick comment, really. Aspen economy relies heavily on tourism. And certainly we have the destination management plan that we are working within our own organization to monitor and make sure that we are not being bad stewards to our community. But what strategies would you propose to diversify the local economy and create sustainable job opportunities?
We only have 2 minutes for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, you get 60 seconds of it.
Yeah, and you just used 30 seconds. High level.
High level, I think
Yeah.
that visitor satisfaction is based on service satisfaction and the people serving the visitors.
Yeah.
And so if we don't take care of our community first, then our visitors are not going to be happy. And so that it filters down to all the things we just talked about.
Yeah.
Affordable housing, we didn't touch on childcare, which I
Yeah.
think is a critical part of
Yeah.
community infrastructure and workforce. And I think that in terms of making sure there's economic diversity, we can talk, there is potential, I'm trying to go fast, there is potential to have conversation about policy on incentives and subsidies around retail and restaurant from a government level.
Great. That was pretty good. Thank you. Tori?
The quick answer here is I agree that our resort is only as strong as our community. So for me, economic diversification really hones in at local opportunity. We need to create and continue opportunity for locals to own and operate businesses, but also businesses that are geared to serve locals as well, right? It can't all be based on resort economics. We need to be serving the people that actually live here. And there is plenty of opportunity for our younger population to be at the forefront of those new businesses that are going to serve our population to come. So for me, diversification really means looking at some of that community-based business efforts.
Thank you. 30 seconds. Why should we vote for you? Torre.
Sure, I'll start. Because of my education and my experience and my time in Aspen, the conditions that I've lived under for the last 31 years being in Aspen have led me to see a lot of different opportunities and challenges in Aspen. I know the lay of the land here well. I know how to work in City Hall and work with our partners at the BOCC in Pitkin County. So bringing that forward to continue advocating for my community, that's what I seek to do. I'm extremely available, an open door in City Hall, but my phone number I put out there all the time, 970-948-2023. Call me anytime. I advocate on behalf of my community, and I would love to stay there.
Great. Christine, why are we voting for you?
We're voting for me because like I said in the introduction of this, I think I've put in the time and the work to understand the nuances of local government and also the lived experience in Aspen. And that's a perspective needed at the council table. Some of the lenses which I bring, I think, have not been represented at the table in recent years or even further than that. And so I would like to help serve Aspen in that way.
Thank you. I know it's kind of a selfless job, or not a fun job, I'll just say that at times. I'm sure it's rewarding, really looking back and seeing the things that you've accomplished. So I congratulate you both for running, and I wish you both the best of luck. Thank you for your thoughtful responses. It's clear that Aspen's future is in good hands with passionate individuals like you both willing to serve. As you can see, both candidates bring a unique perspective and ideas to the table. Local elections are the cornerstone of our democracy, and your voice really matters. Remember, the Aspen City Council election will take place on March 4th, with early voting starting February 18th, just here in a couple weeks. Ballots are going to be mailed on February 10th. Make sure to vote and stay engaged in shaping the future of our community. Thank you for joining us on Aspen Affairs. I'm Debbie Braun, and I look forward to seeing you next time as we continue to explore issues that impact Aspen businesses and residents. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie.